Well, everybody, welcome back to the 3 of 7 podcast. We're so happy that you're joining us today for this nice, peaceful episode.
Although it's been 4 days or so for you listeners, it's been about 2 minutes for us. So we're coming off a really...
We're really happy to have you here today. My name is Chad Wright, former U.S. Navy SEAL, ultra runner, podcast host. I have my brother here, Blake, with me, president of 3 of 7 Project.
I'm happy to be here too.
Thank you for joining us today, Blake. We have instructor Krista here, full-time instructor at 3 of 7 Project. How are you feeling today, instructor Krista?
This is the worst day of my life.
What the heck? Krista,
I'm hoping it's going to turn around.
do we need to talk? Do we need to rehash the power of the spoken word here? Come on.
Maybe about 15 minutes ago we did.
And last but not least, we have Admiral Chili, the admirable Admiral Chili. Welcome, Chili.
I got new titles.
Yeah.
Dang.
Are you Admiral status in the Space Force now?
Yes, I deemed him Admiral.
No.
He's in charge of an
He
entire
can't
fleet.
deem nothing in
I
the,
know.
he ain't even part of the
You're not-
Space Force.
I may be. Am I Admiral in 3 of 7? I've ranked up.
Yeah.
Well, I'm ahead of that in Space Force.
So
What are you? Can you give your rank?
Maybe when I retire.
Chili and I were actually talking earlier about when a vote comes, when we need to vote as a 3 of 7 Project team, like on whether or not to go rock climbing or to go running. When the vote needs to come up.
You just decide.
No.
Is that what it is?
No, that's not what it is.
So since we have a even 4 here.
Yeah, because when it was 3, it was 2 versus 1.
Yeah.
The 2 would win. But in 4,
Yeah, so we talked about this, and Chili and I came up with the conclusion that...
Okay, so there it already doesn't matter because you two
They
just
came up
have
with a
deemed
conclusion.
something.
No, this
So
is
just
a logical...
everything else you've said is just discredited.
This is a logical conclusion. Chili and I's vote, if we vote together, will always outweigh you guys' vote.
Because
Because we have more total combined time and service to 3 of 7 Project. So we're automatically higher ranking, and our votes combined equal more mass than y'all's vote. So
I think
It's a good,
our combined ages are greater than your combined ages. So I think
Especially
that should
since we have kids.
I think we have more life experience.
And our combined wisdom is also more than y'all's. So y'all's your knowledge at least outweighs mine, but your wisdom,
don't worry, we're going to talk
and
about...
also your CrossFit skills, son.
he got you beat on that.
I mean, just pitiful,
How did you get so good at CrossFit all
dude.
of a sudden?
It
He's
just
good.
You know what I did? You know all I did is I pull your trick on you. I just barely pull ahead of you, and you're like, "Oh man, Blake must be feeling good. I'm feeling bad. Look, gosh, I gotta slow down. I can't do this. I gotta break my push-ups doing 10 sets of 1."
My push-ups are unsat. So
You also act like he just got good at CrossFit. He's been good for a while.
no, he hadn't been good for a while.
It was to me.
That jugger was weaker than cat's water when he first started.
Bad.
What, 3 years ago?
No, not too long
I've
ago.
only been CrossFitting about a year.
He's getting
Really?
pretty stout.
That's when I started.
Started right around the same time.
I've done it about 5 times in the past year. They've all been good.
Every other month.
We had a really good run this morning. Did you guys enjoy that run?
Yeah.
No, running's the dumbest thing.
Krista, what happened
It
there?
is bad for you.
There at the end, you just
I was
like,
on a downhill.
oh my gosh.
She was ready to get that thing over with.
She must have been, because I was having trouble. I was trying to stay ahead of her coming down that last stretch, and I was having trouble staying ahead of her. I thought, what the world? Downhill running is usually hard on your knees.
It
Did your
is.
knees hold up good this morning?
They hurt a little bit, yeah. And there was one downhill, one of the first downhills where I felt something happen. And I was hoping it would work out, and eventually it did. So, but
That's
yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got to
was
quit doing all that running.
Well, you guys are getting too muscle bound. Blake and Krista are getting way too muscle bound.
I'm getting fat bound. I'm trying to bind up some fat.
It's all that bread.
Yep. Bread and sugar. I put sugar on my bread.
Good gosh almighty.
Are we talking about anything today?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
He's over it.
I actually want to get some insight from you guys on parenting and what it's like to have kids.
No, you don't. You just want something to fill a podcast. You don't care about that stuff.
No, I really do. I really do.
Something to disagree with.
No, the other day we actually thought Brooke might be pregnant, and she ended up not being. But
That'd have been funny if you said on the podcast, made the announcement.
no, it ain't like that. But you know, when that happens, you start thinking about, I wonder what it would be like to have kids. So I really do care about this, man.
I bet your heart rate got up on that, didn't it?
No.
Yeah,
Probably
you
didn't
might,
sleep for 3
I mean,
nights.
you might want to consider what it might be like to have kids before you
No, that's not the way I roll.
you cut it close.
That's not the way I roll.
Before you play
See,
with that.
This is the way I live my life. I'm a very resilient human being, which means I don't ever plan ahead for anything.
Don't plan on that. You strap in for 20 years or something.
I rely on my ability to be resilient. In other words, I just take life as it comes, and it's just like when you're out on the river for 10 hours straight and you realize I'm literally getting roasted by the sun right now. I hope someone has sunscreen because I didn't think about the sun. And you go around and you ask, and hopefully somebody has sunscreen because hopefully somebody is the opposite of me where they actually plan for things.
This is ridiculous.
And so then it works out. But ultimately, I knew that I was resilient enough that even if nobody else had sunscreen, or maybe they used all their sunscreen on themselves, that I was going to make it through. So that's how I live my life, man. I highly recommend that lifestyle choice, by the way, for all you listeners. If you are planning things out, stop doing that. Just take life as it comes and build resiliency. Right? Because then you never have to be worried about things that are coming. You never even crosses your mind like children. I don't think you actually buy into that. I think that's just what you enjoy. And so that's what you've decided. Because just the other day you told us that you think it's a good idea to plan things and you're going to start implementing some structure into your day. And
if
then
you don't plan,
that just fell by the wayside.
without any planning, you will not accomplish anything. You have to plan to some degree.
You have to be creative.
You can plan and not worry. Those things can happen at the same time too.
Well, yeah. I guess that would be the ultimate best way to live life is to have both those aspects to where you kind of had a plan, but you also knew you were resilient enough to make it through if something went awry with your plan. Mm-hmm. If you could combine those two, that would be awesome. That's kind of what Blake and I have going on. It's like both of us, if you equaled both of us, you would have a really good person. Right?
So you're really half a person right now.
Yeah, we're two halves.
Two halves.
And that's how we have been able to go through life together.
You know what your mom said the other day? You were there. You were in the car. She said if you had a person that took the good parts of Blake and the good parts of Chad, it'd be me. You know, she said that.
That's why chili's so popular.
Ponder on that.
You know, I love chili so much, man. I made the comment the other day, you know, I meet a lot of people and there are very few people that I think could actually make it through SEAL training. Maybe I can count on one hand of the people I've met in the last 5 years that I thought could make it through. And Chili's one of those 5. He's one of them. Chili could do anything he set his mind to. He's probably one of the most valuable people that you could ever meet and spend time with in life.
Good grief. Thank you.
So yeah, I am interested in And I think a lot of listeners are also interested in what the parenting experience has been like for you two grown adults.
And if you had a kid, I would laugh my butt. I would laugh for years about this. I mean, I don't know if I could continue on with life seriously anymore. I would just constantly be laughing.
It may not be a good idea, huh?
Whew. Yeah, that'd be funny.
But before we move forward in this episode, before you have children, you should probably get married. Now,
Should probably.
yeah, it's a good.
Seems like a good idea.
Yeah, it's a good idea to find the right person to reproduce with. Now,
And not only just find them, but also enter a covenant with them.
now the reason I want to talk about this is because, Chili is single, and
On the
there are many females that are pursuing him right now. And
how many?
he
Not
won't.
many.
Oh yeah, there's a handful. And so I want to talk about first, should you get married? What do you think, Blake? Should you get married?
If you plan to have kids, you should.
Okay. What do you think, Krista?
I think different people are called to different things in life. And so I think if you can and that opportunity's there and it's a good thing, then yeah, I think you should definitely commit to that person. I think marriage is a great institution, good thing. But I think there are people who remain single all their lives, and that's a great thing too. So
What's the number? What's like one of the big things that marriage has provided, or how has it enhanced your life experience, or enhanced you as a person? Anything. I mean, you guys just said it. Probably a good idea to get married. What's the why? How does it enhance life?
Well, I mean, if you're going to have kids, then obviously you need to get married. And getting married, the people that raise kids that are single, I don't know really how they do that, and they're able to work, and I don't know how they do it. So the practical aspect of it, of having someone there to help, but also having somebody that, if you choose the right person, that really is like your best friend, that you can be yourself. I say be yourself around them, people, whatever. But like, you can tell them anything. You don't tell anything to anybody, at least I don't. And so just having somebody that you know really what they think about you, who they are, you're with them day and night. I mean, those are the good things to me. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Because not everybody has that in a friend. Some people do have that in friends, but it can be tough to have that in a friend. But when you've committed to each other, then it's almost a given that has to be there.
Yeah.
yeah, I think that in addition to that, I think a huge thing that happens when you get married, should happen, I think inevitably happens, is you change. You don't stay on the same path. You don't stay the same person. You get challenged. If you have a good partner, that person is going to be sharpening you and pulling things out of you that wouldn't have happened otherwise. Reflecting things back to you of yourself that you wouldn't have seen otherwise. And so it's like a good training partner, you know, it really is. And so it refines you, and then you do the same for that other person. And then I think you have the opportunity to develop some real deep intimacy. Just take a relationship to a level that you just can't take a friendship. You can have close buddies and friends, but in a marriage, you have the opportunity to create some real deep intimacy. And that's a beautiful thing. It's a scary, frightening thing, but it's a beautiful thing when that happens. I think that, and this applies to having kids too, but I just know I understand God better, and a lot of the things I read in Scripture, I just see and experience in a different way because of being married. Like when it talks about, just metaphors that use images of marriage and weddings and a bride and a bridegroom, and like you just read those things differently because of being married. And same thing with, I would not have an understanding of God as my father or certain aspects of God without being a parent. You just can't without experiencing it yourself. And so I think it just gives a depth to your spiritual life as well.
That's pretty profound, Krista.
You were also married though, so
Well,
do you think people?
I was going to give
married?
Chili an opportunity to answer because Chili was actually on a marriage podcast the other day.
Were you really?
Yeah.
Mike Bellini, Chili was featured on a marriage podcast. What's it called? Ultra Marriage?
Uh-huh.
Okay. If y'all want to hear Chili on Ultra Marriage,
Son, Mike Bellini's podcast about to blow up.
go listen to him. What do you think, Chili?
What was the question? Sorry, I mean, I
Should
don't.
people get married?
Should
and if
people
so,
get married?
why?
And
Oh.
if so,
And
what?
how
what
has it enhanced your life?
I'm not in the business of telling people what they ought to do. I mean, that's what
Well,
the
let me-
question is, should they? I pay.
So one way you could answer this question maybe is seeing your parents' marriage. Like, what do you
Right.
think has happened, or what have you seen modeled that's been beneficial through seeing maybe not you yourself being married? But
Well, I'll
maybe
tell you
your
this.
parents?
I've said for a long time I don't really understand marriage fully. But I think a better way to say that is I see a lot of people in high school, middle school, college, growing up, kids saying like, if they don't have a girlfriend or a significant other, they are constantly worried about trying to find one.
Mm-hmm.
And like they just gotta have one. Like, good grief, this is embarrassing. Even people say that this is not good. This is gotta have one. And I'm always like, why? Is there someone you I used to say that all the time. Is there someone you got in mind? And they'd be like, no. And I'm like, well you just want to. Understand that. I wouldn't understand wanting to be married for the sake of being married. But I think I get more when people say, hey, I wasn't looking to get married, but I met this person and man, she was incredible.
Mm-hmm.
And we just, got close and I love her. She loves me and want to spend the rest of my life with her, raise a family with her, whatever. And it's like, so we got married. It's like, okay. I mean, there's logic behind that.
Mm-hmm.
But just wanting to be married when there's not a person in your head is like bizarre.
Yeah, yeah.
But that's everybody I see.
You know what I think plays a lot into that? I think the human desire to want to be wanted by someone else plays a lot into that, man.
Maybe. I don't know what it is fully.
I think that's what drives a lot of adultery. I think that's what drives a lot of these relationships like you're talking. A person's, I don't know if you call it vanity or what it is, but it feels good as a human to know someone is coveting you physically, emotionally, whatever it is, right? And I think that is part of the sinful nature of human. So
I think that deep desire isn't necessarily sinful. I do think it can get distorted.
yes.
But I think we do as humans, have a deep desire to be chosen, to be treasured, to be valued, to be understood. And I think those deep desires can drive us when they're not getting met or fulfilled by God or by other, better, purer things, or it's just not the right time for that to be met by a person that will meet that desire. But so I think underneath it, that desire actually is a healthy part of being human. But I think what you're describing is people misdirecting that or distorting that desire.
Yes.
So,
yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
But I do think that plays into it a lot.
Yeah. And you said something earlier, Krista, about how when, a young person, it's great to really, Chili's a great model for this, to take time to figure out who you are apart from someone else.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing wrong with that. As a matter of fact, I think that's a healthy thing, but it's not a thing that our culture promotes. I think going back to what Chili said, as younger people, they think that's just the pathway. Once you reach the age of sexual maturity, you need to find a partner, right? You need to find a boyfriend or a girlfriend, and it's you're a weirdo if you don't have one, or there's something wrong with you. I've always wondered, Chili, why have you chosen to stay single?
I think I just laid it out. I mean, I don't have a desire for a girlfriend to just meet. I mean, I don't have that desire.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like I said, I would get it if you met somebody and then we're like, well, it's that person.
Okay.
But I mean, I guess I get that. But I mean, I don't get just wanting one and then. I don't know how else to say it. I don't get that.
I get that.
I don't. What about? Why would someone want to do that? Why would you? How could you do that and not have somebody specific in mind? I guess it's just what you're supposed to do, or maybe some people legitimately don't care who it is. They just want a warm body. I mean, that may be what it is. I don't know.
I completely understand your perspective because, and I think it's rare. I actually, my husband's the first person I dated. And that was in college, my sophomore year of college. And I didn't date anybody. I went on a handful of dates, like first dates with people, but I knew I would know immediately. Like, no, like there's no point in this relationship, but there's no point in going out. I can still be friends with this person, but I think I share that perspective and know what you're saying. And I think that's rare to have that. But then when you meet that person, and you decide, okay, this is possible, and I think for a lot of young people, like there's kind of no point, like where's it going to go, And so I think that when you do, finally meet somebody that you're willing to kind of, move toward and invest in and pursue, then, that'll happen, but it may not happen. But I wasn't looking for anybody. I wasn't looking to get married. Someday I thought maybe I would, maybe I wouldn't. I don't know. And, kind of like your philosophy of life, just see what happens.
Yeah.
And so I think that, that perspective is just probably pretty rare. And so I admire Chili for having that, way of approaching it. This is the Chili.
This is just admiring me today.
Admire Chili Day.
The first part of this podcast is
good grief.
Well, I mean, Chili got mad at me earlier because
hey, stop right there. Stop.
When females want to talk to Chili, I send them to him.
You need to not do that because guess
they pass through my filter, and if you pass through the filter,
that's rude, ain't it?
It's freaking ridiculous, man. Because you think that I'm telling you not to say stuff like that because it bothers me. It bothers me for these people. Gosh, dude.
Don't worry about them, Chili.
It's like sending the kid to the candy shop knowing the guy's not going to give him no candy.
You're a jerk, dude.
What do you think? Do you think people should get married?
Yeah, I'll answer my own question.
Freaking jerk.
I think
you dog it all the time.
I think
Hope Burke's not listening.
No, I mean
he sure does crap on marriage a lot.
I mean I would recommend
He's thinking this one out, ain't he?
I would recommend you to not get married. And for many reasons. Now, here's how most people operate though. Most people don't have enough self-control over their sexual desire to not get married. That's one thing Chili holds a high standard in terms of self-control. He's never touched a drop of alcohol. He trains like a freaking mad dog. He can hone his diet down to just the perfect diet. That's all part of self-control, right? And so if you're like Chili and you have that level of self-control, then no, don't get married. Unless you happen to meet that person like Chili's talking about, that you're like, holy crap, this is a no-brainer, right? I think also, this is biblical, by the way. This is not Chad's opinion. This is biblical. I think also, if you are not married, it is much easier to focus on serving the Lord. Now, I know people have problems with that statement because there are ways. This is probably the way the marriage has most benefited me. And it's contradictory to what I just said. The biggest benefit that marriage has given me is it's given me the opportunity to emulate Christ. In terms of love, in terms of serving my wife, in terms of dying to myself. It's the biggest gift that marriage has given me. And I would have never done any of those things if I wasn't bound by the covenant of marriage. I wouldn't have. I would have rolled on out, boy. All right. So, Chili, that's my answer to that question.
I didn't ask, but
yeah.
Well, no, I mean, but so you basically,
marriage is freaking hard, man.
But you're not saying don't get married, really. You're saying unless you meet, somebody that,
yeah,
which,
and even then, if you do meet that person, I'd still recommend you don't get married.
I mean, it's hard to say either way. Like, I know the verse you're talking about where Paul says better if you don't get married, and I don't know the exact quote of the scripture.
But if you can't control yourself, get married. That's what he says.
Yeah. And then on the other hand, God created Adam and Eve for a reason.
Yeah,
and created marriage. So
he said it's not good for man to be alone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's...
Well, if I wasn't married, I would still date.
And tempt your self-control.
No. That's what y'all were talking about earlier. Both of you guys, Chili and Krista, were like, I was going on a date with somebody and I just immediately knew it wasn't over.
I didn't say that. I've never been on a date.
When I was a young single man, I enjoyed the process of dating. Even if it was a person that I knew I was never going to be with. I just enjoy taking people out and showing them a good time, man.
So you just like to string women along?
No, I just enjoy.
Or man, he would go out and take them out. If you're not interested in marrying them or something, what's the difference in taking a girl out and eating or taking a man out and eating?
I'm telling you, I just like. I enjoy the process.
You're just going out with a buddy.
See, that's y'all's problem, man. Y'all got to learn to fall in love with the process. Okay? I'm a process guy. That's what I like about it. I like the process of things.
We got in the truck the other day. We was headed to a basic course and fired up the Suburban. It connects to Chad's phone, Bluetooth, via Bluetooth. And Lil John
hitting that Lil John
and the East Side Boys and Pastor Troy comes on and throw it up.
Y'all don't know that's what we listen to?
And Chad gets in the car and I'm like, dude, what is this garbage? And he's like, I like the gangster kind of what a crowd like. That's a lot like rednecks. The culture is and I said, what?
They are.
Ain't nobody ever said that before. And so here I'm just drawing this back to he takes these strange things and he tries to draw some foundational principle about it. I just like the process and I enjoy the experience of eating out and just the eating out institution, and I just love the process of taking a lady out and
I do.
Lil John, he just like David Allen Coe.
They are. They're like rednecks in the city.
Yeah,
I'm telling you, they really are.
Foul, vulgar. How can you listen to music that says those words?
That's what we listen to. We just like it for the beat, though.
You turn the bass up.
Throw it up, man.
Yeah, you don't know. You ain't never seen that sub in the back of that Toyota? That thing will thump, boy.
This might be the first, Blake, you've gotten us off track now.
Yeah,
Usually
for real,
Chad
man.
gets us off track.
I know. Well, yeah, man. And also, I think because, we spent so much time as young people being raised by our women, right? Our mother, our aunts, and I just enjoy the company of women. I do. I prefer the company.
What's that guy's name on Family Guy? Chili, you was telling me about.
Herbert.
I prefer the company of females. There is absolutely nothing sexual about it. I just prefer the company of females.
All right, well, let's move on.
Are you calling him Herbert?
Well, I think everybody ought to just date.
Gosh almighty, son. This podcast is going downhill fast, Blake. What's wrong with you today, man? It was already the worst day of Krista's life. Literally the worst day of her life. Holy smokes, man.
All right, let's transition.
Okay, now we've decided we met the right person. We're married here. We've talked about the good things about marriage. Now I want to hear from you guys because this is the honest truth. I cannot figure out why in the world anyone would have kids. I cannot understand why anyone would want to have kids. I could figure out maybe like if it was back in the day and you lived on a big farm and you needed helpers on the farm to harvest crops and all that stuff. Then I could see the practical side of having children. Or if it was accidental, but I can't see why anybody would actually.
Well, there's no accidentally having kids. You know what you're doing.
I have zero desire to have children. And so I'm trying to understand this.
You think that's true?
What?
Zero? There's not a little speck of desire?
No.
You don't think?
The other day, he was just wanting to start a youth camp.
Now I like children. Our girls.
You're just not selfless enough to have one and set your own time aside and develop one.
I mean, there's nothing in the world that I love more than Blake's girls. Nothing. All right, I like kids, and as a matter of fact, I've kind of been getting a little bit of spark for wanting to work with some youths, and I'm not there yet, but it's getting sparked up. Can y'all help me understand the benefit? What you guys have got out. First of all, what drove you to have children? Was it a natural instinct or what was it? That's what I can't figure out. The initial thing, what drove you to want to have children? Somebody please answer this question for me. Was it on accident? What?
No, I think natural instinct is part of it. I think when you get married, I mean, it's the natural result of, marriage. I think that can happen. I mean, obviously that's the way it's designed. So I think it's just the natural result of a relationship. And then I think, I think you this little person you produce is you and your spouse. Like it's the culmination of the two of you, which is a really incredibly cool thing. And I think that's sort of more of a practical side of it.
But there was an innate desire there?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, for sure. I think one of the things that can happen, doesn't always happen, but can happen through marriage is one of those things I mentioned earlier that changes in you is you become less selfish and you become more selfless and throughout marriage. And so I think that's an expression of that as well is it's one other step toward selflessness that you then want to turn what you have and your love toward someone else, and you want to not just serve your spouse, but you want to serve this child, and you want to raise them up and love them. And I think it's just an outflow of what's happened in your own heart, for me anyway. And I know lots of people, as far as the question of marriage, should you not, there are people that remain single. I think there are also people that are married and they don't have children. Many people would love and long to have children, and they can't for some reason or another, which is devastating for them. And so I think there's also an aspect too, like I know there are people who can't. And so kind of like, when we've done workouts before, we've done hard things, like one of the things we remind the people, students or people we're working out with, is there are people who would love to do this that they can't right now. Mm-hmm. And so I think to have the ability to have children and to not do that for maybe selfish reasons or not great reasons, I don't know. I just think that would be hard for me to realize that there are people who would love to do this and they can't. And so it makes me very thankful. I feel thankful that I can.
Interesting.
How about you, Blake?
For us, it was quite intentional. It took us a while before we had Blakely. I mean, Kat, it was like a year before she got pregnant. And so we wanted kids, but I don't know about her, but for me, I've always loved kids growing up and playing with little kids and stuff. And so I wanted one of my own, like I wanted someone that I could play with, that I knew was going to love me, that I could instill my, values into, and the feeling that you get and the reward, I guess, that you get, like when you come home, or when we come home from a basic course or something, and they're still up and they're like just, waiting on you to come in. And it's just the unconditional love that they show you. And, maybe I didn't realize all that beforehand, before we had kids. But, yeah, I mean, I think it was just something natural that, like, I always wanted kids. That's why, there was a part of me at a certain time where I was thinking about going in the military, and I decided, no, I want to stay home and start a family. And that's what I want. That's what that's what I want to do. And so that's what I did. So I think it was sort of a natural desire.
That's interesting.
I will say, though, I wasn't one. I think a lot of young girls babysit, and they want to work in the nursery at church, or, be around little children. And I wasn't that person. I did not grow up like that. Like, I didn't have a lot of experience around babies. I was playing sports and really active in a lot of other ways, and wasn't opposed to that. But I didn't grow up as somebody who like had these dreams of having a family and having kids, and so I don't think that always is the case. And so I think that is one cool thing about how my life has evolved with getting married and having children, is it has brought things out of me that were in me that I wouldn't have discovered otherwise, that desire to nurture and care for and love my children. And so I think that that's another way, just like marriage draws things out of you that you might not have discovered or developed otherwise. I think children do that too. And so, and chances are, if you ever had kids, you would see things come out of you, inside of you, that you maybe kind of knows there, but like it would just be expressed in a way that like you might be like, wow, like I never imagined I would be in this place and experience these feelings and acting in this way.
Yeah, and both you guys had multiple kids.
Yeah, we did it again.
So yeah, so for the listeners that maybe just have one kid, I mean, why would you go on to have another one? I mean, would that one not just achieve all that y'all just talked about?
Short memories.
Oh.
One. Yeah, I mean, I wanted another kid for Blakely. I mean, it was on the account of her. I mean, yeah, of course we loved Blakely, but if you were thinking about yourself, yeah, it's probably better just to have one kid. But then, like, Chili grew up as the only kid, so
look how he turned out.
Yeah, but I think then I think on the other hand, like, if it was just me or just you, then like how would our lives have been different, and how would they be different now? And so I mean, really, it all needs to be, like, I think you should seek wisdom and all of this stuff, and it's different for everybody. And
Well, yeah, but I'm trying to. I'm talking to two people right now.
and I'm telling you, like, I think for me, that was the wisdom that we found, was that it shouldn't just be Blakely alone, and that she should have a sis or another sibling growing up.
Mm. And you, Krista, you had many kids.
I had 3, and I might have had more. I might have had more, but I had 3 C-sections, and so if I'd had a 4th, it would have been high risk, and so they recommended. They just said if you have a 4th, you're very likely going to have another C-section, and so that would just put me at high risk, and so we made a decision based on that. So, but yeah,
you would have had more.
Yeah.
Oh,
I would have. Yeah, because I mean, it's unfathomable, and it's hard to imagine in the beginning before you have kids, and then when you have those kids when they're little, it's just really hard. It's challenging in a lot of ways, but there are these incredible rewards that offset that, and that you just don't know until you experience it. And when you experience those things, it changes you. It really does. And I know there are people who don't continue to have kids for lots of reasons, but I think there's an awareness too, I think for me anyway, that like what the difficulty we're going through right now, or this phase we're in, like it doesn't last forever. You know, this child is going to end up going into, be a teenager, and then they're going to go into adulthood, and then they're going to have kids, and I'm going to have grandkids, likely, possibly because of them. And I think I just tend to be also a person that doesn't make decisions based on how I'm feeling at the moment. Try to step outside of that too. And so even if I'm in the middle of something that's really hard or difficult, I'm not going to base my future decisions on that feeling at the moment. And so I think projecting that out among, across many years, the thought of my kids having siblings and brothers and sisters that they grow up with, and what that might look like in the future, like that vision was big enough for me to say, no, I think this would be a good thing, even though it's going to be hard, and there are going to be moments. So.
I don't know why would you not have kids if you're married? Why wouldn't you? Because of the difficulty, or because of...
You see that look?
Why would you not?
Like if you're physically able, there's
Many
not a
reasons.
reason. Like
if you're married
and
you're able to have kids, are they selfish reasons?
Many reasons. Where would I start?
But where are they all rooted?
The look he still giving.
I mean, I don't even know. I could literally spend the whole podcast talking about why a normal human would not have kids.
Which would all be selfish.
Yeah, they're all selfish reasons. So you got to think of where the motives are rooted at.
No, they're not all selfish.
Give me one that's
they're not all selfish.
Give me one that's not.
Well, one reason that I would not have kids is because why in the crap would I want to bring another human into this experience that is life? There is nothing about this life that I am attached to. There is nothing about this life that I am attached to. Why would I partake in bringing another human into this life?
To raise them up, to help to do the Lord's work. What if every Christian across the country said, you know what? Screw this. We're not reproducing anymore. Let's shut this unit down.
To be salt and light in the world.
If I could see...
You're riding the coattails of other people that are.
Well,
if I could see the spirits of the children that are unborn, I would say, don't come here. Stay where you are.
SOS.
This life sucks. Don't come down here.
Is it just this life in general, or just how the world is now?
Well, I think particularly the time that we have
see, because that's the argument people
been
always
chosen
make
to live in.
is how bad the world is currently, which they thought that
since the beginning of time.
Every previous generation from the beginning of time. Well, look how bad it is now.
Yeah, life. Yeah, the life of fallen man.
Yeah,
is just.
It's always been.
I think about that often. I'm like, gosh, man, this life is just filled with death, and everything dies, and just
And if you had a
grief.
kid,
But it's
you would-
also full of.
And if you had a kid, you'd bring life into it.
It's also full of life and there is a lot of good things about life.
I'm not attached to any of them.
I didn't say I'm attached to them. You're not.
I'm ready to get on out of this joint. I'm ready to depart the tent, son. I've had enough of all this crap. So that's one unselfish reason.
I don't know that.
I don't know. That's unselfish.
No.
That is totally unselfish. That is me thinking about the life of another person that I don't want to bring into this equation. That's actually me being very selfless.
I don't think that's a very honest or deep answer. That's a reason to justify. That's not really how you feel. That's a reason for you to justify not having kids. You don't feel that way.
Let me tell you another selfless reason. Okay, now, well, I don't know how this applies to you guys, but my marriage and my relationship has had some very unique challenges that have set my wife and I back in terms of, and I'm talking about the military life and the, all that came from that and just never being settled. And that's the life that I have been created to live. And truthfully, I don't feel like, I don't think that I am capable or like settled enough to responsibly bring another life into this experience here. My life has been weird, man. I know everybody can say that about their lives, but let me tell you, my life has been extra weird.
Yeah,
Right.
and that's a wisdom issue. That thinking like this doesn't seem like a good time, or we feel equipped, or there's there can be reasons for that, but that's different than saying this seems unwise right now than I'm never going to, because I think there has to be a certain element of trust that God, I don't know, God could do something, and I have to trust that He would provide and give me whatever He gives would be sufficient for what we need in this moment to, and so I think there's a difference between saying in this moment, at this time, this doesn't seem like a wise choice if we have a choice in it. And this is bad. I would never do this. So those just seem like different attitudes.
Yeah. I have a little bit of both. And my final reason I will tell you guys is, crap, I forgot what it was.
Must have been a good one. The main reason is that you have a lot of things you still want to do in life, and you don't want to give no time.
He's a young man.
I'm not, dude, I'm getting old.
No.
I'm getting old.
Young man.
This is
Your
my final
seed
reason.
is probably expired anyways.
It's my final reason. What the crap, Blake?
Shooting blanks.
I'm going to have to put freaking explicit on this podcast now.
What was your final reason?
My final reason is like I was for some reason I am missing the genetic like code as a human to procreate. I'm missing that. Like that innate natural
That desire.
I'm totally absent of that. And so I don't know why. I don't know if the Lord has removed that from me because that is not the path that I was meant to serve. That's just not what I was meant to do in life. So that's my last reason. I'll give you guys. I could go on with many more.
I think. Go ahead, Chili.
Well, I was just going to say, I'm curious about that because I think when you say that, you say like you don't have the desire, you mean to have kids, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, all animals in nature have the desire to procreate. It's what keeps the species alive.
Well, right. Like the desire to have sex with your wife is the biological desire to procreate. Like that's what that achieves in the end. You know what I'm saying? Like I think you do have that desire. I mean,
No, I don't. I don't.
well, maybe you don't. I just wanted to get you to
Never
say-
much cared for sexual relations.
Maybe you don't. I just wanted to get you to either confirm or deny that, I guess.
Yeah, never much cared for it.
Okay.
It's an inconvenience.
All right.
So
Well,
move
whether
on.
you want to have kids or not, I think that your response to it shouldn't be anybody that have kids is an idiot. You're a fool if you have kids. Maybe it should just be that it's not a good idea for Chad to have kids, because I think that a lot of people that really look up to you can take that to heart and maybe start to resent their kids, because
Oh,
if they're in
good
like
grief,
a
that'd be
hard
bad.
time or whatever, they're like, you know what? He's right. I don't know why anybody have these dang things.
Well,
And I shouldn't even be married.
But you guys might think this is extreme to say that, but I
people
know
do that all the time.
I
Yeah.
know how much people value what you say.
Well, people do that all the time with what he says, with what other people say, with people that they look up to. So
Well, and it is in the end their problem, but if you don't need to
Yeah.
contribute to it.
Well, that's what I was going to say. It's their problem.
Yeah.
But I think one thing, just to throw this out there, and as a reason that people have children, want to have children, that they may not even realize, I think, is the desire that both men and women have, is to take on more responsibility. I think that's actually a part of it that
Yeah.
some people don't even really consciously think, oh, I want to have a kid, so I have more responsibility. But I think
Sort of gives you meaning too.
Gives you
a
right,
purpose.
right. Gives you
Purpose,
meaning,
yeah,
gives
which
you
is a huge
responsibility,
thing.
something to take. I think that's part of it, and I just
Yeah.
Well, that's
Good
one
point.
thing that I didn't hear either one of you guys say. One of the benefits I could see to having children is the fact that you always have a mission. Like if you have children, you can never you can say that you don't know what your purpose is, but you just haven't reconciled with what your purpose is. And I think that's a really, really valuable gift, because so many people struggle finding purpose. And I'm like, man, if you have children, you always have for the rest of your life, as long as
Yeah.
those children are alive, even as adults, you always have purpose. Or you should.
Yeah.
You should identify with that as your ultimate purpose.
Yeah, I think that can be something that's difficult for people as they pass through different phases of parenting too, because when you're at like Blake's stage, when you have little bitties, you wake up and man, they're in your face, like demanding and needy, and then I know I've experienced throughout the years that shift happening, because as my kids have become more independent and they become teenagers and then they leave home, and I have one now living in a different state, and so two living in different states, and so that can be kind of a crisis for a parent too, to figure out, like, because that purpose shifts and you have to kind of redefine it, and it takes a different shape. But you're right, it never leaves. So even my son, who is on his own, paying his own bills now and living his life, I'm still his mom, and my purpose looks different in parenting, but that can be really difficult for people to redefine and shift and figure that out. And in a marriage, when that happens too, as your kids become independent and they leave the nest, they say, that can be an interesting moment for your marriage too, because if you haven't continued to work on your marriage and grow together in intimacy and foster a healthy marriage, when those kids leave, if you have been just oriented all around them and that has been your sole purpose for existence, that can be really hard on a marriage.
I
So
bet.
you have to have, be purposeful in both
And I don't
marriage
think-
and parenting.
I don't think that's healthy for the kids throughout their
No.
lifetime either.
No.
If they are the sole focus of the marriage.
Yeah.
Boy, I'll tell you what, a lot of listeners are going to be happy about this podcast. They're really going to like this. They're all the time requesting to hear about y'all's parenting skills.
Well, there ain't many skills here.
I have
got
I have a friend who says, before I had kids, I had 3 theories about parenting and no kids. And then I had 3 kids and no theories about parenting. That happens really fast.
Well, I want to ask you guys one more question before we wrap this show up. Give me a challenge that you've had to face as a parent, something that comes to mind, a challenge that you've had to face, and maybe how you overcame it or how you are currently overcoming it, or maybe you haven't found a solution to it. But a challenge that you faced as a parent.
I mean,
I know there's a lot,
laundry list of 'em,
but
but-
like one that might come to mind that really challenged you.
I don't know about an individual incident. I think, like, as a parent, a constant challenge for me is not producing a human that is not going to be like I'm not enough to get them to where they need to be, or maybe I'm doing some things wrong. And so, and you see that in the kids, like Krista and I were talking earlier, some of the things they do is a really good mirror of the things that you do. And then some things are just they do because they're kids, but there's some things that they do, such as being angry or responding in a certain way, and you know that was because of you. Like, man, that is how I act. Yeah, they learned it from you, and so that is it's a gut check and a challenge, and you're like, oh crap. So then that in turn you have to work on yourself, and then you have to turn around and correct what you have just over a period of however long it's been. You didn't even know you were instilling that in your kid until it manifested itself, and then it did. Now you have to go back and redirect the path. And so my kids are young, so to bring out something big would be tough. But aside from that is helping your spouse navigate. For me, it's been tough helping Kat navigate parenthood with her not having a mom. And I mean, I'm navigating it myself, but when she's seeking out help and advice and like wanting to talk, and I'm a dad, I'm not a mom, and so I can talk to her about my experience as a dad, but I have been the dad of a 5 and 2-year-old the same length of time she's been the mom of one. And so, those are probably the two biggest challenges to me is the mirror that they show me, correcting myself and then correcting that. And then it's like, crap, man, what else? What am I doing now that is going to manifest itself in 2 weeks? And then I'm going to have to go back and fix that and then helping Kat navigate it.
I see that. So you're having to hold yourself to a more stringent standard really at all times.
Constantly.
So, yeah, exactly. So like, yeah, I get that totally, because the level of accountability goes way up because someone's always watching and learning from you.
Yeah.
Where it's like me, I can take a rap off and act a fool, and not saying that that's right, but there aren't immediate repercussions of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're listening. They're going to say the same things you say. They're going to do the same things you do. I mean, when people say they're like sponges, it's like people say, there's a lot of things people say about kids, like, oh, the time goes fast and they're like sponges. And you're like, yeah, man, everybody says that. Okay, whatever. And then you have kids and you're like, oh, okay, I get it now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's true.
Yeah, I can think of lots of challenges and lots of things. Some I'm in the middle of right now, but for some reason what came to mind is kind of similar to what Blake's talking about. I think a thread that runs through all of those challenges for me is how do I need to change in this moment? Because I think about, for instance, homeschooling. I've homeschooled all of my kids at various points, not all the way through, but have had experience with that. And one of the things as I've taught them that I learned pretty quickly is I need to not just approach my kid and try to teach them in this way that I think is right. Like this is the way to do it. Mm-hmm. And they need to align with this and conform to this. And the way they're going to learn and the way we're going to move forward is for them, just for this to click with them. And I've had to study my kids. And so I had to study like the way they think, the way that they approach things, how they understand things, the pace at which they learn. One kid might learn to read really easily and quickly, one doesn't, and to be patient in that and change the way I'm presenting the math problems. And so a lot of what I've discovered is how to not just, I think it's easy as a parent to say, okay, I have the way, I have the path, and you need to get on this road, and you need to move over here to where I am. And I think a huge lesson I've learned as a parent, especially through challenges, is sometimes I have to step off my path and humble myself or study and go into an uncomfortable place that isn't my natural personality, isn't my natural bent, and meet them where they are and understand that they are a totally uniquely created individual that sees the world differently than I do, sometimes because of their age, but sometimes just because of their personality, and experiences the world differently. And I have to come to where they are. And I think having multiple children is incredible too, because each kid is so different. And so there are certain of my kids I can identify with pretty quickly. Like I understand how you think. I totally get that. I know why you feel that way. and we can kind of share some things in that way. And then I have other kids that I'm like, I really don't get you. I don't understand you. Like, you are processing this totally differently. You are so irrational. like that's not the way I operate. If you would just do this. And it's good to also have a spouse who maybe is different than you, because my husband and I are very different in a lot of ways. And he can come to me and say, hey, I think you need to just kind of look at it this way. And I know you want to get to point X, but you need to back it up, and you need to take this, it's hard for you, but you need to just meet that person where they are and just sit in their emotion a little bit, because I'm more logical. I'm less inclined to just sit in those places that feel irrational to me. And so that's helped me as well. So I think through those challenges, it's helped me grow as a person to understand my kids are so unique and so different, and it's not about me. It's not about me or accomplishing a goal or fixing this problem or even, solving this challenge. It's about the relationship that I have with my kids, because that's the thing that's going to last. The challenge, is just a thing, but the relationship is what needs to be cared for. And so, the challenge could still remain, the problem could still remain, but if I am connecting to my son or daughter's heart and caring for them well in that, then that's really ultimately what matters. One little tiny example that I think about, I don't know why this came to mind, but I have a child who's pretty introverted, and there was a period of time where this child would not really communicate or talk, and somewhat because of age, but also just personality, and just was really hard. And I had to really kind of enter in. I think one thing a parent needs to do is enter in and empathize, like really try to see through your kid's eyes and understand. And I knew this person, if I asked questions, they weren't really going to answer and wasn't going to get anywhere. And so I bought just a journal, like a composition notebook. So just cheap composition line notebook. And I had these questions that a friend of mine who's actually a therapist gave me, just personally, just for marriage. Like, you go through these cards, they're cards, and you ask your spouse a question every now and then, and each level kind of goes deeper and deeper. But it was intended for marriage. But I thought, you know what? I'm going to do this with this child, and I'm going to start this notebook, and I'm going to write the first question in the notebook, and I'm going to put it on their bed. And because this child of mine is kind of artistic, and I think part of what they didn't like was having to answer questions without thinking about them, because they really cared about like their answer and it was meaningful to them. And so I thought maybe this is an angle that will work. And so then the child would write back and answer the question and give it back to me. And then I would answer the same question, because then this child was getting to know me. I was getting to know them. They were getting to know me. And then we just kind of exchanged this notebook one question at a time. And it was just a cool example of learning your kid and understanding what was causing that challenge or that difficulty in communication. And it wasn't because this child was this rebellious, bad kid. It's just they processed things differently. And it was trying to unlock and figure out like what feels kind of a safe way for them to kind of process things and get to know each other in a different way. And so I don't know why that came to mind, but that was sort of a challenge that was sort of, there was a creative solution to it. But I think all of it, the thread I had mentioned at the beginning, is this idea of studying your children and understanding they're unique. And sometimes it's not about us, but we have to move toward them and get out of our own comfort zones to build that relationship.
Yeah, that's good.
That's a long answer, but
No, that's
what came to mind.
That would be a significant challenge.
Yeah.
I had a couple other things come to mind.
I don't know
Because
if we have
that was
time for that, Blake, but
those were just where I'm kind of at right now. But I was thinking for kids in general, it's hard to watch them struggle with things. And I can just think of an example of like when Josie was little and she would try to climb up on the bed and I would just put her up there. And I thought, like she's never going to learn to climb. If she falls, she's not going to know what it's like to fall and get hurt. And so that was one thing I had to learn. That's been a year ago, but that was a big one to me. Like just let them struggle and let them fail. And if she gets up there, great. Then she's learned it. If she hasn't, then oh well. And another thing I learned was that I would discount what they were capable of. And if I found myself, I would just give them the opportunity to try something. I'm like, man, there's really no way she's going to do this. A lot of times she would do it. And they're much smarter and more capable than you think they are, whether it's a physical thing or like, some kind of writing or math problems or whatever. But they always exceed what I think they can do. It's like I would just think, there's no way they can do that. But if you just give your kid the opportunity, they might still fail, but at least give them the opportunity to do it, because a lot of times they'll actually get it, and it's going to make them progress so much faster because then they've just learned that, and then they've got some confidence. Like, man, mom or dad's kind of proud of me that I did that, and I did good at that, and so maybe it helps them find, what they like or something. But those were two things I remember in my past learning with the kids. And the last thing I'll share that made me think when you were talking, it just kind of stuck out to me how we're talking about marriage and parenting, and really how they're opposite. Like you get married and your spouse pretty good, but over a lifetime you get to know them better and you're closer and closer. But parenting's really different. Parenting's different. Like your child comes out and they immediately love you, and you're like the closest at that point. The unconditional love that they give you is endless. And then as they grow to an adult, it really distances, right? They get married and you become less intimate, and it's almost opposite. The progression of marriage and
less intimate in certain ways, less dependent.
Yeah,
But,
I guess dependent maybe is a better.
But I would say my adult children, it's really cool at a cool stage right now of seeing the depth of like all of those trials that you're like, how are we going to still have a relationship after this? And my husband jokes that he's like, with my daughter, you're going to be that old lady and that daughter that are like, either you hate each other or you love each other. You're just, because you have that because over those years, your child has, you've developed so much safety with them. Like they know you're a safe person. And sometimes the safest people in your life are the ones that you are the hardest with, and you give them the hardest time precisely because they're safe. They're going to love you unconditionally. You're not going to go anywhere. It's your relationship has been tried. And so when your kids, when you pass through that, and you've walked steadily through all of that, at some point on the other end, hopefully, usually, the roots of that relationship have gone so deep.
Yeah.
And you've weathered so many storms because you've loved them unconditionally and you haven't left them. All those questions are testing and trying, like, are you going to choose me? Are you going to stick by me? Are you going to, continue to love me? If you do, your actions will answer those questions. And so it can develop some really good intimacy in the end.
Yeah, it's true.
So
Man,
that's why you should have kids, Chad.
I just learned so much from you guys. And you guys thought this was going to be a stupid topic
Oh, I didn't
for a
think it would be.
podcast. You guys were mad at me for picking
I
this
thought
topic.
you'd think it's going to be a stupid topic, and I still think you think
You know
that.
what? I bet you guys just helped a lot of people.
Well, maybe so.
I bet you guys just helped a lot of people. I heard a lot of wisdom coming out of here. Coach Krista talking about studying your kids, figuring out how to best help them navigate their life in the best way that they can learn and receive information. Blake talked about the potential of potentially limiting your kids by doubting their abilities, right? And many more things. Those are the two that really stood out to me. But very, very good, man. I think the listeners are going to really love hearing from you guys. I just want to thank each of you so much for being good parents, for coming on here, sharing your lessons learned to help other people. And, you know, it was a profound conversation. What do you think, Chili?
I've told you over and over again. If I got something to say, I'll say it.
Okay. All right. Well, guys, this was a great podcast. We appreciate you tuning in. If you want to train, go put your application in for the Proving Grounds. Links in the show notes of this episode. If you want to train, go put your application in for the basic course. Links in the show notes of this episode. If you want to learn how to run, go purchase Nuff Said Running. There's a link in the show notes of this episode. If you got anything out of the show, share the show. That's all we ask. We love you guys so much. Nuff said.